I've had a bit of a realization recently that noticing things is a huge part of my life and underpins a lot of my work and how I just be in the world. And I want to talk about that today because I don't think it's just me, and perhaps it will be useful to you in some way to think about the role that noticing plays in your own life, or perhaps where it doesn't and could in a helpful way. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've noticed about noticing. And while I riff on this, I'm going to take you on a few recent walks to illustrate my point. My Tai Chi teacher always used to say, notice what you notice. And that stuck with me over the years. And I think that I have unwittingly brought more intentional noticing into my life because of it. So I went through about 20 years of depression. It came and went in varying degrees of intensity, but it made life very difficult as a constant in the background. And I didn't really realize until I was able to heal from that, which I didn't expect to be a possibility, but it did happen. I hadn't realized that it was a constant until it wasn't there anymore. Anyway, I was thinking about this on a walk this morning and remembering that one of my therapists was a cognitive behavioral therapist. And I remember her she used to give me homework, and she gave me homework one time to make a big chart and divide it up into the days of the week and hour by hour in the day. This was kind of how granular it had to get. And for each hour, I had these cards that I made with tasks or things I could do written on them. Very simple, basic things. This was basically just to get me to keep going through the days. So I had to choose which cards were going to go where on my weekly plan, hour by hour. So I knew what I was doing hour by hour. Anyway, my point is, I had to do noticing for that to work. I had to notice things that felt good to do, things that I was able to do, things that I could put down on my board to help me get through the days and the weeks. And even before that time, I think if you're an artist or in any way creatively inclined in a kind of active way in your daily life, I think that makes you a natural noticer. I've had conversations with my mum where we've been on walks together, and I will notice things that seem very obvious to me as a matter of course and point them out. And so often she'll be surprised because she hadn't seen those things. Sometimes it's tiny details, sometimes it's a big landscape or what the sky is doing. But she's not an artist in the traditional sense of the word. And so for her, it doesn't apparently come so naturally to notice things all the time. And I didn't really realize that that's what I was doing until I had this contrast to hold it against. So I think actually I've been noticing things my whole life. I just never thought about it in these terms. And what's very exciting to me now is that I can do it with intention. Now that I've spotted it, I can use it as a tool for my art and my life. And in many regards, I'm already doing this, but I think the way that I've been thinking about it recently, it's just brought it to a whole new level. In my work, for example, it's kind of my job to notice what's happening, what people are talking about. The people who read my emails or follow me online somewhere or purchase my courses or join my membership. It's part of my job to notice what they're saying, what feedback I'm getting, what seems to be prevalent, where I'm noticing patterns, because that's what helps me to create offerings that serve people, that serve the people who like what I do. And often I'll notice that what's going on in my own life is reflected by what I'm seeing happening out there. And a lot of spiritual teachings would back that up, in that, as they often say, there's only one of us here, or as within, so without, as above, so below. All these different ways of thinking about how we are mirrors to the world and the world mirrors back to us. So anyway, what I've been noticing for myself in the last, I guess, 6-7 months or so, is that I have this increasing craving for quiet, for slowing down, for a feeling of spaciousness around me. And that's not new. I always want that, but it's kind of taken itself to a whole new level recently. I've been on a house decluttering bender and I've got one planned for the studio as well once I've finished my current collection. I've been getting rid of things that I used to find quite difficult to get rid of, like books. It's just become an easy decision. I just want space and the clarity of thought that comes when you have quiet and space around you and less visual clutter, less things to think about that are just around you day to day. I've been doing a bit of digital decluttering, not a lot, but I'm sort of chipping away at it in the background. I've cleared out my wardrobe. I've been clearing out the never-ending mess that is the spare bedroom. And I have noticed that increasingly in conversations, and I appreciate there's confirmation bias at play here as well, but I don't think that this is a new conversation, and I don't think that it's an unusual one, especially at the point that we're at in the world that we live in at the moment. I've just noticed more and more people writing articles, or I'm having conversations with people, or people are talking about it online, on social media, just this desire to just get away from the noise. And because I'm noticing that conversation happening amongst other artists as well, I realized that I wanted to change my membership, which is really, I suppose, my core offering, to reflect that desire and that craving and that need. So that's what I've been doing recently. And it's been a very intense, ongoing task for the last few months, but a lot of fun because this is all creative stuff that I love doing. Anyway, I'm very excited because at the time of me filming this, and it will already have happened by the time I actually post this on YouTube, it's basically done, and I'm going to be relaunching the membership this week. And I just can't wait to present this offer. It's not a new offer, obviously. I've been running this membership for 5 years now, but it has evolved with what people need and what I need as well. And I've now recalibrated and redesigned it so that it not just looks and feels more spacious on the inside, but is very much focused on supporting artists in that slowing down, that getting quiet, that essential quiet that we need as artists to be able to go within and hear ourselves think and feel and pull out the ideas, to even have the space within us for the ideas to come through. It's so difficult to find that quiet and space when you're jumping about from thing to thing and you've got commitments and appointments and errands and work and family and friends and all the things that we have, and a lot of them are great and a lot of them are not. But with all of that noise, it's so difficult to slow down and listen within, and that is such a key part of how we express ourselves as artists, how we find what it is we want to express. So I've really worked to change the membership so that it supports artists in doing that. Anyway, I will put the link in the description box below if you're interested in checking that out. I would invite you to come and look at the sales page because I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. Completely redid it from scratch. But yes, it's been a very intense and you could say noisy few weeks or months while I do this recalibration and reorganize things, because obviously I'm doing that in my own life, but I'm also doing it in my business and my work and in the membership. So I noticed what was going on within myself and what conversations I was hearing. I've responded accordingly, and then that's been quite an intense and noisy time, and I have found that noticing has been a tool that I can use to stop me, or at least to reduce the feelings of overwhelm that do come when there's a lot of work to do in a short period of time. So what I've been doing is what I've been calling, very unimaginatively, noticing walks. So I might do some very intense focused work in the morning, and then I know when I just need a break and to step away from the computer. So I will take Poppy and we'll go off and I'll do a noticing walk, which is basically the kind of walk I normally do, but with an extra layer of intentional noticing. And it's been such a fun and interesting and curious way to do a walk, basically. Such a simple activity, but it's kind of brought an extra layer of depth. And for these walks, I will tend not to listen to podcasts, which is what I normally do on walks. And I'll really look at things and slow down, slow my pace as much as Pops will let me, and notice tiny things or big things. Just my challenge to myself is to notice something on each walk that I've never seen before, which, given that we do the same walk every day at least once, becomes more and more challenging because you feel like you've seen everything, but of course you never have. And I've seen some really lovely and quirky and funny and sweet and beautiful things on these noticing walks. So this whole idea of noticing has been very front and center for me recently, and I wanted to talk about it in this video because it's such a simple tool. You don't need any fancy kit to do noticing. You just need to go out and see what's there in the world and slow down enough to appreciate what you're seeing or feeling or tasting. Noticing is a very sensory experience. And of course, it's also something I bring to my painting. I'm noticing my experiences during my sea swims, and then I bring that into the studio and in some way translate that into paintings, what I've noticed through the five senses and beyond. So I think noticing is something we're probably all doing all the time, but to varying degrees of intentionality and awareness. I guess I'd just like to invite you to think about this for yourself, like the kind of things that you notice in your life, and perhaps go on a noticing walk this week, see what you discover. I'd love to hear about it. Editing Tara just popping in for a second because that was a really weird place to end the video. I don't know why I stopped there. And there were a couple of other things I wanted to say, one of which was that I seem to have omitted the most obvious thing about noticing, which is that it brings you into the present. And that might actually be the most important thing about it. And it is something that I see throughout my life. Where I'm noticing things is where I'm most present. So on my noticing walks, when I'm swimming in cold salt water, when I'm painting, or in the zone with writing. And to me, noticing brings a depth and richness to the now, the present moment, that just takes it to a whole new level. So it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm here in my day to day, because when I was ill with depression, being in the present could be very painful. It's not being in the present with the constant chit chat going on, or the doom and gloom, or whatever else is going on that is putting a shadow across right now. It's more that when I'm really present, the world feels somehow riper, it's juicier, it opens up to deeper levels, there's more to see, it becomes this infinite noticing. So it's kind of a magical tool in a way. It's got so much potential to make the mundane feel awe-inspiring, or to switch your attention away from the sadnesses of the past or the anxieties of the future, and just bring you here now, where there is always something to notice. And last night I remembered something that Martha Beck talks about. She has a brilliant podcast called The Gathering Room. I highly recommend it. And she talks about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. I don't know if she invented this or if it's just a general thing that everyone knows about, but it's a way to bring yourself into the present by noticing what's around you, by getting into your body. So what are 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, 1 you can taste, something like that. I may have the order wrong, but it's just a very simple exercise that brings you into the present, like my noticing walks. So noticing what you notice is a very powerful tool, I think. And I'd love to know what you think about this. Have you considered it in this way? Do you use noticing as part of your daily life? If you're an artist, you're probably quite switched on to this idea. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure there's lots of aspects of this subject that I have not thought about yet. So if you're still watching, thank you for being here. And thank you to everyone who's left such lovely comments on my other videos recently. It's so nice that people are enjoying them and finding them calming. I very much enjoy the process of filming, and particularly the editing part. So it's a real pleasure for me to get to do this. And I will see you in the next one. I've just come down to the studio and discovered these 2 beauties. Never had these before in the garden. They must have seeded themselves. So gorgeous and massive. It's a... I have lost my train of thought. I've realised recently... What have I realised though? Oh, focus, Tara, focus. Perhaps it will be useful in some way to you to think about why do I want to talk about that? So it's something like, what are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things you can hear? What are 3 things you can smell? 2 things you can touch. What's the other one? See, hear, smell, touch, taste. So what are 5 things you can hear? No. Where am I going with